Welcome. So great news. You have completed the first week of your 3 weeks. So 1/3 of the work is already happened. So that's something to celebrate. You've already um, spent 7 days in this process. Hopefully you've had 7 days of all the things, yoga, meditation, reading, journaling, and just some good old-fashioned self-study. And if you remember from last week, self-study is a yoga term, svadhyaya in Sanskrit, and that just means to study yourself. This in yoga, the object and the subject of the practice is yourself. So there's also a term that you may have heard kicked around in context of yoga and meditation. It's called vipassana. Vipassana. Vipassana actually means not meditation, but to see clearly, to see clearly. So we use these practices and self-study to see clearly so that we have discernment, so that we can tell when things are good for us, healthy, positive, um, and we're moving in the right direction, and when we're not. So in a way, there's an analogy of yoga that yoga is actually really just a mirror, right? The yoga practice is really just a mirror. And a mirror shows us who we are. And if the mirror is clear, then it shows us who we really are. It's not a distorted view. So the practices that we're inviting you into and that you would do in your studio, and all the yoga practices, one analogy is that those are polishing the mirror so that we can see ourselves clearly. And ultimately, because this is called Love Revolution, you can see who you really are, right? Versus sort of the identities that we've tried on over time, right? So when I was younger, I might have described myself differently than I'm describing myself now, right? The fallacy that we sometimes have is that we're not going to change and that things aren't going to change, right? And so we can feel stuck. And the truth is, if you look back at yourself, just your own life, if you look back 5 years, 10 years, 20 years. Some of you that might be all the years, but for the rest of us, 20 years. So for me, I'm in my mid 30s. I'm not that person anymore. I'm just not that person. I like that person. That person had some good insights, but the person that I've become is completely different. And in fact, I recognize some things and there's been some continuity, but the truth is we change all the time. And so if that's true, then why not change intentionally? And that's what this practice, that's what this program is all about, to recognize that we're always changing and to take the reins of that change through these practices. So, just to summarize, you've just done some time and kind of figuring out, okay, if you've done the inquiry work, the journaling, some of that is about what's working, what's not working. What guideposts am I using to decide which direction I want to go to, right? Am I doing it because my parents do it, or somebody told me I should, or because society put it on me, or am I doing it because that's what's in my heart? So these are the kind of things that we've been working on so that now, as you move into the second week, we can consciously choose to transform some things, to make some changes, to put in new practices, shift our way of thinking, and move in the direction toward what we want, toward what we love, so that we're sort of the author of our own life. Am I making sense? If I am, maybe just shake your head or give me some fingers. If I am not making sense, then you can shake your head. No. Okay, good. So also, what comes up a lot of times in the first week is, oh, this is actually challenging, right? To make the time for myself. Uh, Sometimes it's around time. Like, did I give myself enough time? Did I actually put in the processes that would set me up for success? Is did I get in over my head? Is this hard? Right? Because when we start to do this work, we start excavating, we might find like, oh, okay, there's some stuff here. And that can be like a little challenging. It can be a little confronting. So what I've found, and you'll see this in the book, is we have this idea that came from our own life and came from our teachers working with us, and that is the idea that 99% equals zero. 99% equals zero. And it took us a while to understand this concept, but the idea is that if you're only in part way, you're not really in at all, right? You're kind of dancing on the line. You're not really committed. Even if there's one fraction of you that's kind of holding back, it tends to pull all of you back. So I'll tell you how it shows up or how it has shown up in my life. One thing that I used to get, I don't get this question too much anymore, but when I was younger, when we were younger, and we had first gotten married, people asked us, what's the difference between getting married and living together? And my answer was everything, actually. Because up until the moment that I committed wholeheartedly and said before everyone under the sun and before God, and made some real promises to her in front of everyone, we made these mutual promises to each other. In theory, if we had a fight, I could have packed my bags and skedaddled, right? I could have just left. Uh, and and now, if we have an argument, what the commitment is, we're going to work it out. And I can look back at my relationships and see like, oh, I always had kind of one foot maybe a little bit out the door. Like I could always, I can bail on this if things get hard or weird, or I don't like the direction that it's going, or um, they don't wipe down the sink after they use it. You know what I mean? Like there's the possibility of I can parachute out of this. And when you have that, then it's not going to be the same kind of relationship. And actually, the person that you're with, and that's not just love, romance relationships, it's all of our relationships. The person that you're with or the relationship with your that you're in, they can feel it when you're not all the way in. They might not be able to name it, right? There might be this dance around it. And they can also feel it when you're wholeheartedly there.
Can I add something?
Sure.
Well, energetically, I mean, the person that I dated or the person that I married is a completely different person that I dated. Roger is so much like the best husband ever, but he wasn't a good boyfriend.
I was a crummy
I
boy.
mean, he was a really crummy boyfriend, but he's an amazing husband. And energetically, now looking back, I now can see it very clearly. It was all about being all in 100%. And that makes all the difference.
Yeah, and on even yeah, and it's of course this is like the whole difference, right? And that's the answer to the like what's the difference between just dating or living together? Because living together can look a lot like being married. And I'm not condemning any way, but I'm just saying how it was for me. Because however you choose to live is fine, of course. And some people single is the thing for them, and that's fine. And it's like Albina and my daughters are actually really good at this. I might be there physically sometimes, and they'll say, you're not listening. You're not paying attention. And I can repeat sometimes word for word the words that they just said to me, but my brain can be somewhere else.
And the feminine can feel
And
it.
they know. They're like,
Yeah.
that's hearing. That's not listening, right? That's not listening, appreciating. They can tell if even just a fraction of my attention is on something else, even if I'm saying uh-huh, uh-huh, and even if I can repeat it back. Do you guys get that? I mean, we've all been there. And so that's what's at stake, really. If you're sort of only partway in. Do you want to
Yeah, well,
explain it
I'll
another
give
way?
you another example, which is not necessarily like intimate relationship kind of example. So years ago, when we opened our yoga studio, our first yoga studio, and it was very successful from the very beginning, but it wasn't as successful as I envisioned it. And I remember it was like year one, 1 year in, and Roger is like, "Well, Albina," he sat me down and he's like, "Do you know why the business is not as successful as you wanted it to be?" And I'm like, "No, tell me why." And he goes, "Well, it's because you're still holding on to your CPA license." And, you know, I was so pissed off when he said that. I was like, I was very triggered because, I spent my whole life, double majoring in college accounting and finance, studying really hard to get the CPA license. It's certified public accounting. I worked in a big accounting firm. Like I went this whole path to get this license, and then we opened the yoga studio, but I was still holding on. It was like this. I forgot this important part. I held on to my CPA license, and every year I'd have to do continuing education hours, and it takes a lot of time and a lot of money and energy. And every time it was time to renew, I would bitch about it. I'd complain how expensive it was, how boring it was. And finally, he goes, "Our business is not taking off because you're holding on to your CPA license." He says, "It's because a part of you energetically has an exit strategy. I am not 100% committed. Like in the back of my mind, I sat with it and I thought about it and I thought, he's right. A part of me, energetically, at least subconsciously, I was thinking, if this business fails, then I can always go back to my career, my true profession as a CPA. I can always go back to accounting, and that is my true profession." And you know what? I was like, he's right. And that year, I put my CPA license on inactive status. And that is the year when our yoga business really took off. So that concept, 99% equals zero, is true. Until you're 100% committed to whatever it is that you're doing, a big part of you energetically will be pulling you back in the opposite direction. And you know what? It's been, I don't even know how many years, 20 years? I don't even know how many years. It's still inactive. I never, I never activated my CPA license, so that's kind of, maybe a little bit of a practical example of this concept
Let
that
me rephrase it even in a positive way, right? Because there's that 1% that holds you back, but also when you jump in, the parachute appears, right? And when you jump in wholeheartedly, or I've heard it said another way, you take one step toward the divine takes 10 steps toward you. But you have to take that step, right? And that's commitment. When you don't know what the next step is, when you don't know, it's like the Martin Luther King quote, right? Faith is when you take the first step, even though you can't see the whole staircase. You trust that there's a staircase, like a ladder to take you. So, this is an opportunity, I think, for those of you who are checking in, like, oh, I realize like I haven't done some part of it, to recommit. That's what you do about where you have been holding back is you just recommit. She didn't have to scrap everything. She just had to realize where she wasn't fully committed. Same thing in our personal relationship, in our intimate relationship. It's like, oh, in the past, a breakup could mean I pack my stuff and I go. And now it's like there's no suitcase. We just sit down and work it out, right? And that's a whole different energy. So right now, you can recommit to this thing. If you haven't been perfect about it, that's okay. Just recommit. And so that's a moment by moment by moment type of a thing, right? You wake up today, you got in the rush of things, you can recommit. Go ahead.
also like another way of looking at it, and this is what really helped me understand this concept is what is possible when you are 100% in whatever it is that you're doing, whether it is your new business or your relationship or this program. What is possible when you're all in? Right? I mean, it's unbelievable. Like when we ran our yoga studios and we had a big team of people, I remember we had one person on our team, and that person was really great. That person contributed so much to our yoga studios, to our business, but we knew that that person was not 100% in. And Raj always said 99% equals zero. And I was like, but this person is great. Even though they're not fully committed, they're still like contributing so much. And I remember he said, well, imagine if everybody on our leadership team is 100% in. What is possible when we are all in, pulling in the same direction? Imagine where we can go. And once I saw that possibility, what can we accomplish? What we can create in our life when we're fully in? That really lights me up. That is what's really excites me.
Yeah, so check-in time. So you just finished 1 week. This is a perfect time to check in. That's part of what this call is about. So our check-in today is going to be to ask yourself a few questions, which we can put in the chat. But it's just like we did last week. You're going to write a few things down. So if you have a pen and paper, great. If you don't, you can use your phone or you can type it on, on a pages or Word in your um, on your computer. But here are three questions. So, question one is, where have you been holding back in this process? Another word for that might also be resisting, and why. So that's kind of part B of that first question. Question two is, what is possible if you let go of that and fully commit? Question three, what have you learned so far? What's implied here is, what have you learned about yourself so far? So those are the three questions. So right now, you can start answering those questions, writing down the answers on your phone and the notes. You can write them down on a piece of paper. You can write them in your workbook if you have the workbook. So go ahead and do that. We'll spend the next 3 minutes or so writing down the answers to those questions. They're in the chat. So if you forgot, just go down to the chat button at the bottom and then begin to write. I'm going to do the same thing because we're also doing this program. Okay. If you're still writing, you could just put some bullet points to go back and write later if you want with a little time. The point is to just be in that space of inquiry. And now we're going to do something I think is actually pretty exciting, and it would generally require you to, if you can, if you're in a space to do it, to turn on your screen, because what we're going to do is we're going to have an opportunity to connect with each other. And so we're going to put you in breakout rooms, meaning you'll have a little connection circle. And in that circle, there will be people that you may know, and it may be someone that you do not know. And what you'll do is you'll have about 1 minute each. You'll just say your name, and then you'll just say anything that came up during that. Like, oh, I found that basically what to talk about for 1 minute is just simply what you wrote about. So, where have I been holding back? What's possible if I am no longer holding back? And what have I learned? So those are the sort of the three things that you could talk about. And I wouldn't look at my notes, honestly. I would just kind of tell the other people how it's going. Yeah. So you'll say your name, where you're from, and then just kind of say briefly in a sentence or two how it's going. And then if you have extra time, of course, you can continue to connect. But you'll be in there for about 4 minutes or so, 5 minutes, just enough time to kind of share and get a sense that, like, oh, hey, we're all in this together. So we're going to do that now. We would ask you, if you can, please turn on your your video screen. And if it's like, sorry, I'm on the toilet or something, then don't turn on your video screen. I think people learned that in the pandemic, but maybe not everybody. Okay, so we're going to do that now, and you'll find yourself in a room, and you'll have a few minutes. We'll keep time, so you don't have to worry about that.
Have fun,
Yeah, have fun. Oh, I see one. That looks like
Natalie.
Natalie. Is it Natalie or Natalie?
It's just Natalie. It
Natalie,
just
all
has
right.
an extra H. But I just
Yeah,
want to thank you guys so much and say this is not really from the group work, but I'm doing this with my husband who's on
awesome.
his way to Hawaii right now, so he's not here. But it's been amazing. And Ashley is our teacher. I see her there in Albuquerque. But yes. It's been so amazing for us. And I'm a yoga teacher too, but he's never been that into yoga. And now that he's practicing with Ashley and doing this course, he's like really into it. So this is like my dream come true.
Oh,
Hey,
so
that's
exciting.
amazing. You know, sometimes the best teaching we can do is just in how we show up for everybody, right? Like, I'm never going to convince all the people in my family necessarily to do yoga if I just talk about yoga, but if I show up in a loving way, sometimes that's the gateway. Like, what's going on with you? You like something has changed and shifted, and it's because of this work, is what I always say. So I'm glad that your husband's getting access because I do feel like as yoga teachers, we want to share it to everybody, right? Because it feels like a gift to us. And sometimes, though, the best way to share it is just by how you show up.
Mm.
They see it and then they're excited. They see your change. They want a taste of that.
Mhm. Years ago, I did a bunch of certifications with Suzanne Conrad as one of my teachers. She was instrumental in creating Lululemon, right? The success of Lululemon. And she teaches like really kooky stuff. And one of them is called miracle integration. So I'd come home and be like, honey, I'd tell him, let me do a miracle integration on you. And he's like, I'm good. I don't need a miracle integration. I don't need a miracle. I'm like, how can you not want a miracle? Everybody needs a miracle. Let me do a miracle integration on you. And he would always be like, I think to this day I haven't done a miracle integration on you. And he's like, nah, I'm good. So I'd go back to Suzanne and I'm like, can you believe my husband doesn't want a miracle integration? And I remember she said, honey, he doesn't need a miracle integration. He is in your energy field all the time. He's already fully integrated because he is in your energy field. And since then, I kind of
Mm,
laid off, didn't I?
yeah.
I stopped harassing you.
We can
But
do
it's kind of
we
like
can
that.
do one. We can for sure. Um, yeah, so thanks for sharing, Natalie.
Thank
I
you,
appreciate it. Hope
Natalie.
it keeps going for both of you and that you come back and tell us all the miracles that come up. Yeah. Thank you. Um, is there another person? We got time for like maybe one more. If somebody wants to share, you can just raise your hand or do a little heart. Anyone? Maybe someone who wants to, but it's a little bit scared. Oh, I saw Bree. Oh, I saw Ashley too. So let's go with Bree first and then Ashley. Yeah. We're gonna unmute you. There you go.
That was an accidental thing, but I'm gonna say it was divine. I think like you shared the 99% thing is like was so huge for me because I really kind of always have one foot out of everything that I do or like a backup plan and just hearing like you just kind of letting go and fully being able to commit to something that you want and your desires and look at all the possibilities that it's brought you. So that's something that I'm really gonna practice and also consistency, like showing up every single day for myself has been huge for me. So thank you guys for this program and for all of you guys being here along on the journey.
That's
Thank you,
amazing.
Bree. Yeah, it is. It really is like that. At least in my experience, it really is like when you jump, the parachute appears, and I know that I'm approaching something great in my life when I'm both excited and scared.
Hmm.
That's usually the sign to me. That Venn diagram, that overlap is when I know like, oh, I'm at a growing edge. And, Albina said, um, like a part of her was holding back in the business, and we ultimately got to the space where we both quit our jobs and we both worked at the studio, and it had to work. Like there was no there was no plan B. We put all of our money in it. It was like we took all the chips and we pushed it over on black and spun the wheel, right? And until we did that, I don't think there was ever going to be the level of success. You can still have success, of course, partially committed to something, right? And just imagine, like, if you're already having success, sort of being partially committed, imagine if you put all of your time, talent, resources, energy, heart into something.
Mm.
That's transformational. And that's the difference, And that's what most people don't do,
Hmm.
honestly, right? Because we're all hedging our bets on some level in our relationships, in our careers. It's just one of those things that we do because our minds are always looking for the problem. We're looking
Hmm.
for the exit that, when we walk into a room, subconsciously we find all the exits, right? And in some level, your mind is meant to do that.
Hmm.
And like also, when you jump, the universe jumps too. It's just the way of the universe, right? It's how people like do miraculous things is that they jump in with both feet.
Oh, I have to say something, Bree.
Okay.
I don't know if you need to hear it, but somebody has to hear this. There is another concept. It's a universal law, actually. It's one of the laws that this universe is built upon, and it goes together hand in hand with 99% equals zero. And that is the vacuum law of prosperity. And it goes something like this. In order to create anything you want in your life, sorry, I'm going
Keep
off the
going.
script. Um, in order to create anything you want in your life, you first have to make space for it. And this is distracting, honey.
Okay.
Will not finish. The vacuum, he's typing up for you. The vacuum law of
You said it
prosperity.
so fast.
The vacuum law of prosperity. And what I want to say is, so when I was younger, let me illustrate for you. I love telling the story because it's so true for me. When I was younger, I would, and less wise, um, I would date a guy. And on some level, I knew right away that this guy wasn't the guy. But then I would tell myself, oh, I'll date this guy. I'll like spend time with him because I'm bored or lonely or whatever until I meet the guy. Now, the universal law of vacuum law of prosperity states that you're not going to meet the guy until the bandwidth, your energetic bandwidth, is being taken up by a guy. Does that make sense? So
Yeah.
as long as your energetic bandwidth is taken up by something that you know in your heart is not for you, that which you desire is not going to come to you. And to me, 99% equals zero. And the vacuum law of prosperity go hand in hand together. It's like the two sides of the same coin. Does it make sense? So on one hand, you have to like rip out everything that is in the way, rip out your resistance, rip out everything that holds you back or you're holding back. And then you go all in into that thing that you really yearn for, that thing that you want to create. Does that make sense? Am I making sense?
Yeah, no, perfect
Like
sense.
you
Yeah.
have to make space. Like, sometimes, and I'm not saying quit your job, but like sometimes we hold on to that job or to that boyfriend or whatever, to that old friend, and deep in our hearts, we know that is not the job for me. That is, I've outgrown that friendship or whatever that is, or this guy is not for me. But we hold on to that relationship or that job out of fear, or
Largely out of
out
fear.
of fear, or because I don't want to be lonely, or whatever. It's comfortable, right? And we don't take the leap. And some of us spend our whole lives like that. Now leap, jump, and the net and appears. It's not jump when the net appears. You first have to take that first step. You have to jump first, and that's when the universe catches you. Sorry, that was totally, I don't know why I said that,
No,
but
Well,
Thank
no,
you.
it actually ties right in. Thank you, Bree, for
Thank
sharing.
you.
I hope it keeps opening up for you. Keep doing the work. I know that it will. So thanks for
Thank you
sharing.
guys.
Thank you.
Ashley, if it's okay, we can connect separately, or if you really have a burning one, we could go, but we probably need to move forward.
She
Okay.
said, okay.
So that actually plays right into what's coming up next week, right? You've spent a week looking at, let's imagine a garden, right? And you're seeing like, okay, here's where my roses are, but here's also where some weeds are in my garden,
Oh,
right?
it is good.
And so it's like tending a garden. Weeds left untended will just choke out the roses and the grass. If my dad used to spend all weekend pulling weeds out one by one in the front yard. And so he knew though, like if you don't get rid of the weeds and if you don't pull them up from the root, they spread and they choke out the beauty of the garden that you're trying to tend. Now, um, it's not to say that the weeds aren't there's something wrong with them. It's just if you're trying to create something really specific, then there's some gardening that takes place. And most of the time, we let the weeds in our life run wild because of fear, right? Because we know that it's going to be scary to start doing something new. So the familiar thing that we're not quite so satisfied with, we get a little bit attached to it. Does that make sense? Like, okay, I know this isn't exactly what I want, but I'm going to accept it because it's better than the unknown. I don't know what's on the other side, so I stay with what's comfortable. And even though that thing is uncomfortable, we're familiar with it, right? We're used to it enough that we can deal with it. So this next week is where you get to start taking some action, like really seeing what you want to change. And it's about that same idea that you're going to change anyway. So why not do it intentionally? And we said that when you have an intention, right, and you take action, then you transform. So this week is like starting to see what it is that you want to transform and start transforming it. Start pulling things out and putting new things in. Um, It's not to say that there's anything wrong with any of us. That's not the message of yoga, right? The message of yoga is that actually you're perfect, right? And there's things that might stand in the way of us seeing that. Or like the Buddhists
Mm,
say, you're perfect as you are, and you could use a little improvement. Right? Like there's always these things that we can refine to get the mirror polished a little better to see this vibrant self that's kind of waiting to get out. Um, so the miracle really is when you shift your inner state from fear, from scarcity, thinking there's not enough or it's not for me or whatever it is that we tell ourselves, right? To abundance, to love. We shift from fear to love. Love is an abundance. There's enough of love, there's enough of everything to go around. So I don't have to hoard anything. I don't have to worry. Like it's going to take care of itself if I do the things that I know that are meant for me, and not worry about the things that aren't meant for me. And so that's really what the big shift is. Fear is a scarcity mindset. It'll hold us back. We might have really good reasons for being fearful because something happened. And the truth is um, that because something happened once, that isn't the story, right? We can rewrite our story. And that's actually what the work here is. We're shifting out of that into this abundance mindset. So with that said, Albina's going to lead us on an abundance meditation. As we're heading into this new week, the idea is that you're the author.
mm.
You're the author. Or like Jack Kerouac, one of my favorite writers, said, I saw that my life was a vast, glowing, empty page, and I could write anything I wanted. To me, that's so powerful because the story isn't written yet, right? And if you don't like the story that you've written so far, or if there's some part of the story you want to change, you get to be the editor, right? Or as one of my teachers said, if it hasn't all worked out in the end,
It's
you're
not
not at the end, right? Because you get to write the next chapter. And it doesn't matter if you're 25 or 65. And in fact, this week, like I got a job offer for a whole other job that will cause like a big change in my life. And I'm in my mid 50s. So brand new stuff happening. My daughter is about to go to college and she's like, I don't know what I want to do with the rest of my life. Like, because she's having to choose a major. And I said, I don't know that either. I don't know what I'm going to do with the rest of my life. So I don't expect you to know what to do with the rest of your life, but you have to choose something. And so, what is it that you could see now that you want to move toward and
Mm.
start moving that direction? That's what this week is about. Consider it like you're about to be a college freshman, and here's the course career. Like, it's so many things you could choose, right? That's like a kid in the candy shop kind of a feeling to me. But for her, it's fear, right? Like, oh, I have to choose something. I'm like, but you can choose again, right? Like, if you don't like this one, you're gonna like, I've been so many things already, right? And I'm still going. It's the same for each of us. Okay.
Let's meditate. Make yourself comfortable. So if your arms are crossed or your legs are crossed, uncross everything. You're welcome to lean back. It'll be a rather short meditation, but close your eyes and exhale all the breath out of your lungs. And take a really deep, delightful, delicious inhale. Exhale and relax. Relax your shoulders, relax your throat, your jaw, relax your face. And take another deep inhale all the way down into the bottom of your pelvis. Exhale and relax your pelvic floor. Relax your hip joints, relax your belly. Now take a deep, delicious inhale and enjoy your breath. Feel the sweetness of your breath. Exhale and relax your whole body. And breathe in a way that feels good. Giving your breath the highest quality of your attention. Breathe as though every single cell in your body, every particle in your body is breathing in the light. Fill up with breath and enjoy it. Savor your breath. And as you breathe deeply and you enjoy your breath, feel how abundant your breath is. And every time you take a deep breath and you savor your breath, if you wanted to, you could tap into the abundance of breath, the abundance of energy, the abundance of light, abundance of blessings, creativity, guidance. So, right now, as you relax your body even more, breathe and use your gift of holy imagination. Imagine breathing in abundance. Your breath is abundant. Breathe in the blessing, as though every single cell in your body is breathing in and receiving the blessing. Breathe deeply and breathe in the light. Let the light guide you. Let the light bless you. Luxuriate in the light. Let the light support you. And surrender to the light. And breathe in this truth. Every time you take a deep breath and you enjoy your breath, you get to tap into the abundance that is within and all around you. Radical abundance. The abundance of breath, the abundance of energy, abundance of light, blessings, creativity, guidance. You are in the ocean of abundance, ease. Enjoy it, savor it, surrender to it. And internally, you can say, thank you, I love you, thank you. And when you're ready, you can gently open your eyes.
Okay. Thank you, Albina. So that's really it as far as content. And we have about 5 minutes left. Are there any questions? Anything logistics, questions, thoughts, things that you wanted to ask us? Anything like that, we can open it up for a few minutes. And if you have a question, you can just simply unmute and then ask, and we'll answer to the best of our ability. Otherwise, keep going. You're doing a great job. The fact that you're here now, you're like already like in the hardest part is the first week. The hardest part is simply showing up on your mat. Um, the rest will take care of itself.
And remember to journal, even if it's just 5 minutes. You know, we just journaled on those few questions, and I had a major epiphany just here and now. And this week has been rather challenging for me, and I couldn't quite put my finger on why I was feeling weird this week. But once I took my pen and I actually responded to the prompt, I had an epiphany. You know, it's there, A Course in Miracles says, whenever you bring something that was in the dark, you bring it into the light. Like I realized, I brought into the light that which was making me feel some type of way. Once you bring that which was in the dark into the light, you will be given everything you need to clear it, to resolve it. That kind of the magic of this, the power, the mysticism of this practice. So we encourage you to continue the great work, move your body, journal, even if it's just a couple of minutes, 5 minutes. Take a walking meditation. That will be your movement and meditation at the same time. Tomorrow I'm going to send you a few more meditations to choose from, and you have access to, like, I don't know, 74 meditations or something like that. They're kind of all a little
Also
bit.
in your studio, look and see if
That's
there are
right.
some there. I know that Rochelle has some that they've added to their schedule at Yoga to Gather if you're there. Um, Last chance. Any burning questions?
Well, great job, y'all. Thank you so much for coming. Keep up the great work, and we'll see you next week.
Expect a miracle. Expect a
Yay.
miracle.
Bye, everyone.
Ashley, do you have a question?
No, she's just
Okay.
jazz
She's just
hands.
jazz hands. Okay, great. Thank you. Have a great week.